Hi, this is Gary Goodman, founder of The Stuck Creative, and welcome. This is a place to come for tips, tools, and techniques for getting started and finishing your project at last. Not being a stuck creative is a real challenge because there are all sorts of obstacles in our path. Some of these obstacles jump out at us, pop up, and stand in our way of forward movement. But many obstacles that we face, and I say the vast majority of them, are obstacles that we build for ourselves. Obstacles that come out of our assumptions, and our assumptions and knowledge is out of date, or they come out from standards for something else in our life that is in contradiction to what we want to do with our creativity, with our productivity. One such obstacle, and I hear this quite a bit, I can't get started, or I can't do my work because I don't have the right workspace, or I don't have any workspace at all. That stops a lot of people from getting started. But is this a problem that's outside of ourselves? Is it a problem of space, of physicality, of something in the physical world, or is it something within us? If we stop and look, we'll see that we are holding a lot of assumptions about what we need, what we must have as a workspace. And those assumptions come from unconscious places, such as what we've always been exposed to, where we took classes, how we saw other people working. We carry those as what our workspace must be or should be. But we also carry a couple other things that are inner standards which make sense unto themselves, but may be the real obstacles that we need to address to get a workspace so we can keep moving forward as an unstuck creative. Some people's standards of cleanliness just exclude all sorts of activities that they could be having at home as far as creativity goes. If they're a painter, they say they can't paint because of the potential threat that some ink or paint or something else would be dropped somewhere. Makes sense, I get that, I respect that, but it doesn't get us anywhere closer to keeping moving as a creative. Are there tools? Are there processes? Are there ways that we can contain things so we're not likely to make a mess? But beyond that, can we ease up on our standards of cleanliness? Can we revise them to make them accommodate occasional messiness from our own creative activities? Usually the answer is yes. A related issue comes in, a related standard. Again, I get this, one of clutter. I have things put away, I have things the way I like them now. If I get out those toolboxes, if I get out those easels, if I get out those tripods, if I get out those other materials, they're going to be all over, they're going to be out, and that's going to be termed clutter. Is there some way, some tool or process that we can bring about to help contain that clutter, or can we ease up our standard of what we consider clutter? Related to the standard of clutter, another one I hear is mixing of uses. That the guest bedroom remains a guest bedroom, and when you ask that person, saying, do you want to create more? Yes. Do you want to be much more productive? Yes. Does the guest room, how often do you use the guest room for guests? Once, twice, 3 times a year. What is it the rest of the time? It's a guest room. You're hearing the obvious logic. If we change the way we look at how we use our space and mix uses, at least temporarily, perhaps the guest room becomes something more than a largely unused guest room. Those are some of the questions, some of the observations that should start to crack open obstacles to having the space that you need to work. I list here a total of 6 spaces, from the ideal to the less than ideal, but there's spaces. If you can find one or more, then you can move forward, then you can create, then you can be productive, and you can be an example of an unstuck creative. We're going to start off at the top of the chain of workspaces with the ideal workspace. Having your own dedicated workspace is a blessing. It feels great to have a place that no one's going to bump into, no one's going to come in and rearrange, that's dedicated to what you're doing, a space that you have set up the way you want it, with the things you want and the process, how you work within it. But beyond that, that space also influences you. It shapes you. It helps you develop your identity as a creative. But an ideal workspace can be a curse if you let it be a curse. If you've had one, you've lost it, don't think you can't move forward. If you can't build one, as we've discussed already and we'll be discussing here, don't despair, because I have 5 more workspaces for you. Next down the line of this hierarchy is number 2, which is the pretty good workspace. It's not the ideal, but it's pretty good. We all know the pretty good workspaces. They're the attics, the closets, the ends of the table, the corner of the room, the work shed out back. Did I mention basements already? These are the temporary spaces that we can grab and make our own, at least for a few hours, maybe a few days, or even longer. The upside of these pretty good workspaces is that they're accessible because they're where we live. They don't all have to be, and before I forget it, think of maybe a friend, a colleague, or someone, they may have a space that you can use. It won't be quite the ideal space, but maybe they do have a corner of the room or a closet or some extra space in the basement. So don't limit it to your own place of living, but think more broadly than that. But the advantage is it's going to be there. You can get to it quickly. The commuting time is very short. Another advantage is you're going to have your stuff out at some times, and seeing it is better than not seeing it, because out of sight is out of mind. The downside could be that you have to put away the stuff. You can't just leave it out. Leave it so you can pick it up next time. But part of being creative is to find creative solutions to this, of storage and portability. So talk to others, look at others, how they've solved this problem, and bring your creativity to it. Here we have Van Gogh showing us workspace number 3, which is a mobile workspace. Here he is on the road carrying all his materials, which I'm sure was not easy, since easels and other things were pretty heavy at that time. Here are some examples of watercolors taking on the challenge of how to be mobile, converting an eyeglass case or Altoids tin to a miniature watercolor kit. And they're not alone. Photographers, writers, and all manner of other artists, creatives, are taking on this challenge and finding solutions of how to be mobile, how to be effectively mobile, and how to be comfortably mobile. You need to take on the challenge of figuring out what it would take, how it's possible to be mobile. What would you need? What would you not need? And I'll throw into this, think about mobility not only about going out in the greater world, but having mobility at home, so you can move from room to room, or upstairs, downstairs, or even moving outside of where you live. So it's mobility everywhere under a variety of circumstances. Mobility on vacations, mobility at lunchtime, mobility between jobs, whatever. Mobility commuting. I call this a hideaway because we may in fact want to hide away from others, pets, plants, people, or think of it as a hideaway from other distractions of any sort. It's our special place to go to work. That's not one of these ideal workspaces, but it's a place where we're there for one purpose, and that purpose is to work. So we're hiding away from everything that's not our creative work. A hideaway is part half mobile space, so we'll get better at working in a mobile sort of way. But it's a place that can be a familiar second workplace. It's a place that will be there. We know it will be there, how to get there, who's going to be there, what it looks like. And over time, we can become quite familiar and quite comfortable with it. And that's not a small thing. Having that comfort so we can get in there and get down to work is a huge boost. I consider Springboard Workspaces as a place that gets us started or keeps our movement going. It allows us to move along on our project. And the best Springboard Workspaces that I know of are workshops or classes. Again, if they're related, if we can bring in an existing project, or if they can get us started on the very project that we want to get started on, that's perfect. If we don't find that perfect alignment of project and what's happening there at the workshop or class, maybe we could still ride the energy that we build up getting to the class or what the class got us started on, meaning that we could get there early or spend some time earlier in the day before we go to that class working on our project. The energy is being built up, we capitalize on that, we optimize that. Same way after the workshop or class, rather than dropping everything and shifting to something else, work somewhere, work there, work at home, building off the energy that came up in the class. So it's optimizing everything that we're doing here and bringing it to movement, keeping ourselves moving. I'm going to use a term that's probably out of date now, so forgive me. That is tribe. And working alongside your tribe just means finding other people who are working at the same time at a place where you can work, where you can bring your stuff and work alongside them. Meetup is a good place to look for these things. I think probably Facebook groups is a place to look. Asking around if you're a writer at the bookstore or at a writer's center. If you're an artist, asking around at the artist center and so forth. Say, are there groups, not discussion groups, not critique groups, but working groups where the whole notion is to show up for 2 hours, work with people, have a little intro and have a little closing, and then everybody goes their separate ways. That is the format of a working group. If these things don't exist in your area, you be the one to organize it. Others can benefit from it. It'll be a very powerful thing for you to do. Plus, it's a place for you to work on your project. Bring your project, sit with others for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and at the end of it, you continued that forward movement. Well, we've made it. We made it from the ideal workspace through total look at 6 workspaces. We made it to the end. Congratulations. But I am open to the idea that there might be additional workspaces. Or one that I'm going to leave for you to explore, that is the retreat workspace, where you go away, you find a place to go off to, you take all your stuff, and you work there for a week or a month or whatever it is. What we do need to get started on now is either building the workspaces one by one and having a system of those, or at least re-examining where we're at. Even if we have the ideal workspace and it's a new workspace, stepping back and really thinking again, thinking freshly, have we thought of how we can use that in combination with other types of workspaces, or how have we thought how our ideal workspace or our mobile workspace influences us, or how it can be shaped, how it can be modified, how it can be optimized. That's the work that's ahead of us. That's it for today on looking at this problem, how to keep moving forward. I'm going to invite you again to go to thestuckcreative.com and find the growing library of material there. If something's missing or if you need something else, contact me and I'll see what I can do. This is Gary Goodwin, founder of The Stuck Creative, and thank you for being here.